So I'm Tammy Banks, and I have the pleasure of being here after being invited by Will. Now, Will took a little bit of a punt on me because he's never met me before, and he just literally saw me commenting on some posts on LinkedIn. So the power of social media today, so that's going to start off with my slide saying, everyone follow us on social media. So I want to start by talking to you a little bit about me and giving you some examples of kind of my life and why I'm here talking to you today specifically about leadership, complexity and inclusion. So there's a few different photos up here, and these are all me at the moment. So I am a leader, but I'm a leader in a variety of different ways. I have my own team at Taye training, so this is about half the team up there in the top, your right. There's me on the red spot doing my first TED Talk. I'm doing my second TED Talk next month. There's me down the bottom here, slightly blurry, on the Committee for Standards. So I have the privilege of spending my Tuesdays in Parliament, arguing and debating with some of the most interesting people in our country at the moment. And bottom right, I have my glorious family. So that's my two daughters, Charlotte and Caitlin, my little chihuahua, and my husband, Tim. So I lead a really fortunate life. I can stand here today and tell you very honestly, I absolutely love every second of my life. So if we go back to what Chris was saying about people being engaged, positively engaged within their work, I can tell you that every hour of every day that I spend working, I'm really happy to do so. Now, my professional life started at the age of 21 when I started to work in a secure unit for young offenders. So my first job out of university was in a secure unit with young people aged 11 to 17 who were either a risk of harm to themselves or a risk of harm to other people. Some of those 11 and 12 and 13-year-olds had already ended other people's lives. Some of them had really tried hard to end their own lives. I was 21 years old and I went on a journey of understanding the complexity of life at that point. I moved from there to work in the prison. So I like complex situations, and I started by training to be a forensic psychologist. And I was doing that by delivering therapy to high-risk convicted people of sexual offences. Now, at 24 years old, this blew my mind slightly. I was experiencing things and talking to people who had committed abhorrent offences, and I was working with them to try and help them to positively change their life. Well, at that period, I became pregnant, happy accident, and my life transformed quite quickly. We moved away, myself and my partner at the time, and we moved cities to be closer to his family. And my role then took on my first professional leadership role, which was managing homeless hostels and travellers' sites. So you're probably getting the idea that I like a complex situation. I like something that's going to be difficult. I like people to tell me that I can't do it, and then I show them that I absolutely can. That's stuck with me as a leader right through my journey. So I managed homeless hostels, and I worked for the local authority, which I have to say is a challenge within itself, with all of the budget cuts and the frustrations, the sometimes feeling like you're banging your head on a brick wall because you're wanting to do what's best for the people, but actually the funding isn't there, or the time isn't there, or the political landscape isn't right. But I spent those years in the secure unit, in the prison, and in the local authority, learning and learning and learning and just soaking things in. The local authority was my first leadership role, and I was a supervisor based within a homeless hostel. Now, bearing in mind that I just had my first child, and unfortunately for me, the person who also applied for the role had been doing the supervisor role for the last 3 years and wasn't appointed. So she wasn't really very happy about me coming along, swanning in and doing the supervisor role. The other thing was, I took my parenting obligations really serious from day one. Now, I hadn't been at the organisation long enough to be entitled to more than 6 weeks maternity leave. So straight after my cesarean, back at work, and my daughter being brought down to me 4 times a day to be fed by me in the homeless hostel, because that was equally as important to me, because I wasn't just leading a homeless organisation. At that point, I was leading a family, and I wanted to do my best in both roles. From here, a charity came and poached me and said, we can let you do everything that you want to do and have the freedom to do so. We love what you're doing within the local authority. We love your approach and your ability. Come and do it for us. We'll pay you more money. You can work flexibly around your children, and we'll take away those frustrating restrictions that you find within the local authority. So, as you can imagine, off I kind of hop, skipped and jumped. I spent my time then within the charity building up homeless services for young people. And I spent a good 6 years of my life developing that service and loving every moment of it. When I find that I'm at the top of my game, I find that I get bored. I start twiddling my thumbs. I look for that next complex situation, that next difficult idea, something that somebody doesn't want to do, something that people think won't work. Something that people think won't work. So I moved to be CEO of a charity working to rehabilitate the most highest risk convicted sexual offenders in the country. It was a community approach. It was an approach that came over from Canada that was developed by the Mennonites. And it was about building a pro-social peer group and matching high-risk sexual offenders to volunteers within the community so they have a pro-social peer group and they can change their lives. And the aim of that was to lead toward no more victims. It was about working positively with somebody to transform their life, to enable them to cause no more harm. Now, you can imagine most people that I came across, and many of you in the room, will kind of recoil back at the thought of working positively in this way. But I like complex situations, and I absolutely have the belief in people's capacity to change. But equally, I'm not naive, and I don't believe everybody will make the change in their life that I desire them to do so. But this role was a difficult role, and I started, and there was just a couple of employees, about 80 volunteers, and we were just in North Yorkshire. So at the same time, I was asked by the NSPCC and Children England to run a safeguarding project for them. And it was a safeguarding project in the northeast of England and Humberside. And it was developing bespoke solutions, going into local authorities, NHS, charities, who were really failing with their safeguarding and helping them to get to safeguarding excellence. And I did that by looking at tailored solutions, at looking at the culture, at looking at the processes and the policies, and really using my operational experience of working within the services to help them develop in a way that they could meet and exceed their quality assurance standards. Now, all of this came to a head kind of just before some of these pictures were taken, because I was going through my life kind of learning and moving and changing jobs and growing my family. And I loved everything that I was doing, but I can honestly tell you that I was absolutely shattered. So I was holding down the job at Reshape. I was holding down the job at the NSPCC. I was a brownie leader. I've got a couple of children, a husband and a dog that like to see me occasionally. And I found myself just kind of juggling everything. And then along came an offer where I was offered a job working for a charity to be paid more money than I'd ever considered being paid in my life. But one thing that I haven't said within all of this is that accidentally I became a business owner within all of this. So I've talked to you about the fact that I work for the local authority, I work for charities, I led teams. But when Reshape grew significantly, the trustees asked me if I would go full-time as CEO. And so I ended the NSPCC job and a couple of the organisations that I'd been working with and leading them through the change to safeguard and excellence asked me if I could continue. The NSPCC kindly said yes, because they'd lost the funding to continue the project, and I set up my own organisation called Taye Training. And I set this up really just to finish off those 2 pieces of work. Now, I set up Taye Training with my best friend. She was Faye, I was Tammy. We're not very creative. That's how we got Taye. And we set up just to finish off these couple of pieces of work. And that was kind of ticking on over. So where am I today? Well, today, this is kind of the life I lead. And this is the journey that I've taken to get here. So the Committee on Standards, I'll tell you a little bit about kind of each of those. The Committee on Standards is the committee that has 7 MPs and 7 lay members on it. And our role is to assess, adjudicate and sanction MPs. So when a complaint is made about an MP, it goes to the Commissioner. The Commissioner on Standards and her team do an investigation, and they bring that information to us at the committee. 7 MPs, 7 lay members. And we debate until we come to a conclusion, and then we sanction appropriately. I can honestly say it's one of the most challenging things I've ever done in my life. And actually, I didn't ever expect to be sitting in Parliament. I didn't ever expect to be one of the only 7 people in history to have voting rights around a committee's table. They were only given to us a year ago. Previously, lay members didn't have any voting rights. Top left is my TEDx talk, and my TED talk was about my journey through life, and talking about the 3 things that I think absolutely transform people, and that is connection, environment and opportunity. This is my team, and I'm really proud of my team, half my team. They're all professionals, they're all frontline professionals, and they deliver Taye Training to connected organisations. So we have social workers up there, NHS workers, police workers, charity workers, healthcare workers, substance misuse workers, you name it, they're up there in the top corner or in the other half of the team. And they go and train on behalf of my company for other frontline professionals. And I'll tell you more about that in a moment. And bottom right is the reason I do everything. Is the reason I get up in the morning, and is the reason why I came here today, and is the reason why I lead the way that I do. Because I care. And earlier on, Olivia said, people. People is everything. People are everything. But not from a label perspective. It isn't a case, I'm standing up here now and I'm telling you about my life, and you'll be making your own judgments. And you'll be making those judgments based on your own life experience, your own values, your own principles, and what's happening in your life at the moment. And some of the things that both Chris said about the organisation that he worked for, and Olivia said about her mum, is about inspiration. And actually, I was inspired. There's a variety of times in my life where inspiration has absolutely led me through. But there was one time where everything was coming to a head, where I had the fortunate opportunity of having lunch with Lord Victor Adedobi. And this was when I'd just been offered that job with a charitable organisation. And I sat down with him and I said, should I be taking this job? I'm so conflicted because Taye Training is growing and developing, but this job is in an area that I'm so passionate about. It's with complex needs, and it could elevate from a career perspective and an impact perspective. It could really elevate. And he said to me, will you just stop thinking about a job for a moment and start thinking about your life? And start thinking about actually what you want to achieve in your life, because we all have a short amount of time here. He told me about being a leader. He told me that you lead from the front. He helped me look back at my journey to now, and he helped me realise that that accidental business that I had grown, that accidental business was actually the pinnacle of all of my history coming together. So Taye Training is a fantastic training organisation. Clearly I'm going to say that. But we're a little bit different. We were set up on the basis of operational experts connecting frontline professionals back to their whys, to re-engage them, to inspire them and to motivate them. But what's really difficult is nobody has any money within statutory services. So nobody can go off onto courses that are all about emotional resilience now and about values-based practice and about recognising your bias and being trauma-informed. We don't have any money for that anymore. I would love to think that we did. But my years and years of working within statutory services and then charitable services have really highlighted to me that the landscape has changed. There's now, commissioners are wanting more for less. They're pitching us against each other, so there's less collaboration and there's more competition. The political landscape and austerity mean that actually we're frontline professionals, and I'm talking your police officers, your nurses, I'm talking about your prison officers, I'm talking about people that work within the NHS, within probation, I'm talking about all of our frontline professionals, the ones that are working with the most complex people in society, the ones who are working with people with multiple disadvantages, the charitable workers as well. We're working with double the amount of people we ever had to work with previously. We've got to work with them for less time than we had to work with them previously. And you know what? Actually, because of the landscape, there's more people to work with, and their needs are really complex. So I would love to say that we at Taye Training we get paid a fortune by all of these statutory organisations and charity organisations to go in and really work with their frontline professionals, those people who have the absolute privilege of changing people's lives every single day. We get paid to go in and do this transformational course. But of course we don't, because nobody has the time or the money for that to happen. So what we do is we deliver training for influence instead. We deliver to frontline professionals who have mandatory training that they need to attend that is commissioned by CQC or Ofsted, different quality assurance standards supporting people, and we deliver their mandatory training but by using the training for influence methodology. And this is our creative solution to transforming lives. So when we go in and we deliver that safeguarding training, not only do you have an operational expert, so if we're going in delivering to social workers, there'll be a social worker there delivering it. If we go in delivering to police officers, there'll be a police officer there delivering it. That's the way that we work, because that operational expert can inspire, can motivate, can engage, can absolutely give people the permission to be honest about how they're feeling within their role and to re-motivate them and connect them back to their why. Now, we might be talking about safeguarding or equality and diversity or the Mental Capacity Act, managing challenging behaviour, but we're always coming from this perspective. It's always delivered by an operational expert. All of our courses are informed by legislation, guidance and best practice, and they're CPD accredited, so that the NHS want us and so that police want us. We want to tick those boxes easily for those leaders. They're tailored to the organisation and the customer group. And that's because when you're delivering mandatory training and specialist training, if you go in and talk about safeguarding to a group of midwives, for instance, and you're giving examples of homeless people or people using substances, then actually they're not connecting it down to their role. But if you're talking to them about case examples that they see every day, they can walk out of there knowing absolutely how safeguarding is applicable to what they're doing. And then we make everything interactive and engaging. And so we engage the accelerated learning techniques so that we have toys and sweets on the table, we have activities, we have videos and such like. But more than that, we put some underlying principles in. We have some golden threads. This is our subliminal message. And it's about everything we do coming from a trauma-informed perspective. We're working with frontline professionals. It's about helping them recognise their bias. It's about building their emotional resilience, because at the moment, quite honestly, our frontline professionals are holding this country together. They are absolutely on their knees and working so hard to change people's lives every day, despite the constant chaos and political landscape, changing organisations. They're really working hard to still make that transformation. So we need to lift them, we need to recognise them, we need to value them and help them build their own emotional resilience so they can do their job and they can do it effectively. Now, within my life, as I'm doing this and as Taye Training is delivering training for influence, I'm also spending my days in Parliament. And that's because I don't think that one or the other can change the landscape. I think it needs to be both. There's absolute strategic connection. There's overarching decisions and a direction of travel that we need to be involved in and we need to influence. If we want to create change, we absolutely need to be leading from the front with our passion and our commitment. But equally, we can't forget about the people that it's impacting every single day. And our frontline professionals, they're the ones that aren't forgetting about those people. So we need to not forget about our frontline professionals as we're continuing. And it's about that values-based decision-making. Because I don't know about you, if any of you have been a frontline professional in this room, but when things get difficult at home and at work, and our resilience is low, that's when our professional boundaries start to slip. And that's when we make decisions quickly without as much time, thought or engagement as we should do. So we've snuck all of these into mandatory training. We have 6 training courses that we think all frontline professionals should absolutely go on to ensure that they can deliver effective services, from risk management to safeguarding to Mental Capacity Act. We also have 32 specialist courses, and they're courses that our facilitators have developed because of their experience that at the request of an organisation. So I'll give you an example. Last week we were delivering to a homeless hostel complex needs and substance misuse, because the homeless hostel asked us to develop that for them. So from a leadership perspective, it's absolutely about what Victor Adedobi said. It's not about a job. It's about a commitment, it's about passion, and it's about purpose. And I would say, as Chris was talking, I'm sat there nodding, going, Taye Training was an accidental business. We ended up filling a gap and delivering training in a way that would meet our needs as operational managers. And there was a gap in the market because, actually, we need to be able to deliver values-based training, and we need to be able to deliver more for less. But more than that, we're ultimately committed to transforming the lives of the most difficult, disadvantaged and complex people within society. And if we can do that, for one person, you can change the generational cycle. These are some of the people that we're very proud to work with. So I guess what I wanted to say with regards to kind of leadership, complexity and inclusion is that leadership is a bit of a journey. Being an entrepreneur is a bit of a journey. Being a mum and a wife, a sister, a friend, volunteer, speaker, it's all a bit of a journey. And I spend my time kind of talking and developing and working with people, but I'm very much kind of up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. But it wasn't until about 2 years ago I was happy to admit this. I always put a little bit of a mask on professionally because I was working in Parliament, I was CEO of a charity, I was developing my own business. People had expectations of me. People expected me to wear a suit, look smart, have my hair done and turn up with a smile on my face. This is me at age 8. The reason I'm finishing on this is because the point I want to get across as a leader is really quite similar to Olivia's point, and it's about leading from the heart. At age 8, I had a difficult, chaotic, and extremely abusive life. People told me that I wouldn't amount to anything. It led to me becoming homeless at the age of 14 and spending 4 years living on the streets and in homeless hostels. One person started off the domino effect that transformed my life. And if you hadn't guessed it by now, she was a frontline professional. She was perfectly positioned to inspire me, to engage me, and to give me the tools to be able to move through my life positively and hopefully, ultimately, now give back to society. I'm paying taxes, probably too many taxes. I have a wonderful family. I have a wonderful life. But more than that, I'm absolutely committed to leading from a values-based perspective. I love what I do. I love every single second of what I do. And if you're going into leadership, please go into leadership and lead something that you love, that you absolutely love, and you enjoy doing, and you can see the purpose of what you're doing. You can see the value of what you're doing. These are the things that I've learned through my time. So I have spent time, as I've just said there, with the homeless community, working and living. I've spent time with MPs, debating and drinking lots of wine. I've spent time with high-level people within police and probation and statutory services, within charities. There nearly isn't a group of people that I haven't spent time with. And I've either been inspired by leaders, frustrated by leaders, or been leading myself. And these are the things that I've learned that will absolutely take you through. These are the important things. And it's about that kindness, showing kindness to everybody, including the caretaker, or even, especially the caretaker. We're all on this journey of life together. Lack of judgment, equality, communication. Communication's huge. Absolutely huge, because you walk into a different environment. The first time I walked into Parliament, I had no idea how to communicate with them. I had to take the time to understand their landscape. We've got the contract to deliver some safeguarding training within the Catholic Church. I usually lead that training, and one of the sessions that we do is in a monastery. Now, if you've ever delivered training to 60 priests, you'll know it's not the easiest of environments or the most engaging of environments. But find out why they're there. Find out what they want to achieve. Communicate on their level. Tenacity. Over to you again, Olivia. Tenacity has literally taken me through my life. Somebody says I can't do it, or if I tell myself I can't do it, I will do it. And always be open to learn. Because the frontline professional that transformed my life, I was 16 years old, I was living in a homeless hostel, and she gave me the opportunity. She was a tutor at college, and she gave me the opportunity to sit at the back of her class when the college dean had said no. She said, sit at the back of my class and we'll go to appeal. By the time the appeal came round, I'd completed the year course with distinction and the appeal was thrown out the window. She gave me that opportunity. She gave me that chance. That sent me on a learning journey which helped me transform my life. That took me off to university, even though I hadn't finished school, and I've been continually learning since. So learn always from everybody. Do something you love, believe in yourself, and make a difference. That's the way that I try to lead. And I'll continue trying to do that every day. And I hope you will too. Thank you.